then please type yes in the comments box. It's on the chat box at the bottom. Oh, brilliant, Matthew. Brilliant, fab. Everybody else hear me? Herman, yep. Oh, welcome again, Herman. Nice to see you. Gethin, Peter, wonderful. So it all seems to be working really well. A little bit of housekeeping first of all. Please use the comments box to communicate with us. We'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions throughout the session. There's also at the very far bottom right of the screen, next to all statistics, there's a little happy face. If you click him, you have the option to raise your hand, agree, disagree, ask us to speak louder or speak softer, or say I need assistance. Again, please feel free to use this button as well. And for those of you who'd like the comments to be in a different language, if you click the translate button right of the chat box, it'll translate the comments into the language of your choice, including Welsh. So as a little bit of housekeeping, please feel free to tweet us all your questions or comments. My Twitter handle is @HannahDCW, #DCWwebinar, and please watch all videos and take part in all activities. So today's session is about managing your money online. My name's Hannah France and I work for the Wales Cooperative Centre on the Digital Communities Wales, which is a Welsh Government funded programme to increase digital inclusion throughout the whole of Wales. And I am here with Jocelle.
Hi everyone, I'm Jocelle Lovell, again work for the Wales Cooperative Centre, Financial Inclusion Manager. A lot of the work we do is with private rented sector tenants, and ultimately we try and help them to sustain their tenancies by improving their financial capability. So hopefully today's webinar is going to be really useful in terms of how we bring digital and financial inclusion together.
So to that end, the aims for the session this afternoon is to learn about financial and digital inclusions, what it actually means in action and practice for our clients and even for ourselves. How digital inclusion in particular can be used to help our clients and sort of back up the work we do with our clients around financial inclusion, and look at some of the tools that we can bring to conversations with our clients. So hopefully that's why everybody's here today. Is everybody okay with that? If I can get an okay from everybody in the chat box. Brilliant, fabulous, you're still with me. So we're going to go right into it because we only have about an hour. We're going to try and leave some time at the end of the session for a question and answer session. So if we miss any question during the session, please don't worry. We'll be here afterwards to answer any questions. So I'm going to push right over to Jocelle to tell us a little bit about why managing our money matters.
Okay, so why does managing money matter? There's lots of good reasons actually. But ultimately, if we manage our money well, it can give you security now and in later life. You know, if you think about having savings now, a home, the roof over your head, having a pension, and ultimately all of that can improve people's health and well-being. You know, there's lots of reports out at the moment that tell us both in-work poverty and problem debt are on the rise. And also recent reports suggest that people are only a few months away from a financial crisis. What that means in reality is that most of us only have at the most 3 months savings. So if we were to lose our job and have reduced hours, that could put us into serious problems. As well, there's about a quarter of the people living in Wales who actually live in poverty. So managing your money well is really important, actually, whether you have a lot of money or whether you have a very small amount of money. The impact of not managing it can be quite catastrophic. I mean, ultimately, it costs a lot of money to rectify the problems created. If people get into debt, if they get into crisis, people can become homeless through not managing their money. For some people, they get into so much debt they can't cope and they might even take their own lives. And people can also miss opportunities because by getting into debt, they may be excluded from certain activities or opportunities in life. So there's lots of reasons why we really need to manage money. And like I said, that's irrespective of whether you have a lot of money or a small amount of money. And interestingly, a recent report from the Joseph Rowntree Foundation that you may have already seen called Prosperity Without Poverty, a framework for action in Wales, suggests that the Welsh economy spends £3.6 billion a year on the consequences of poverty. That's nearly 20% of their annual spend. So that kind of puts it into some type of perspective when we're looking at poverty, when we're looking at not managing money, and how much it actually costs to rectify some of that. So what do we mean when we talk about financial inclusion? And hopefully all of you listening today will have some or a lot of awareness about it. But ultimately it means having the access to the tools that you need to manage your personal money, and then the knowledge and the skills and confidence to bring all of that together and make appropriate choices for your circumstances. So you've got a sliding scale there from kind of excluded through to included. So especially some of the tenants that my team work with, will be working with people that basically can't access bank accounts. That might be because they've got into serious problems with them before, so they won't use them. They can't go and get a bank loan, and they can't get credit cards. They can't access credit in the way a lot of people take for granted. And then they also may have to pay more for products like insurance and different things like that. On the opposite end of the scale, you've got people who are completely financially included, can access anything and everything: mortgages, car loans, investments, endowments, savings schemes. And what we need is along that spectrum is a whole range of products and services that, depending where you are at any point in time in your life, there's a product or a service that's appropriate to you. So somebody excluded might at the moment need to use an account. So for instance, if they can't manage their money very well, if they could access a bank account or a type of account that maybe put money aside for them to make sure things like their rent were paid, their utility bills were paid, that would be really useful for them at the moment. But you wouldn't want somebody to stay there. You'd like to think that as they increase their financial capability, they could start using different types of accounts and manage their money more themselves. But ultimately, our goal is to increase financial capability. So that's managing the money that you've got day to day, building up some financial resilience, so getting some savings behind people, and in the longer term, looking at financial security. So people are thinking about that long-term planning and thinking about pensions as well. So there's quite a lot there for people to think about, but all of those things are important at different points in our life.
It's also worth mentioning that my wonderful colleague Matthew Close is with us. He's going to help us monitor the chat box, and he's going to send out links to some of the tools, articles, and things that we're talking about today. So do feel free to click those links or save them and have a look at them in your own time as well. So thanks for that, Jocelle. So how can digital inclusion help? Well, the first question I want to ask you is, does anybody have any idea about what the average savings for a low-income household is by being online? How much money does a household save on average just by being online and taking advantage of all that? If everyone has a think and has a go, has a think. £500, Natalie, very close, very good. 600, Carl. 500, Herman. Yeah, you're all along the right, absolutely the right track. Marvellous. So the average savings is actually £516, so you're also close. That's the average savings according to Lloyd's for a low-income household just by being online. And throughout the session, we're going to look at some of the tools, features, actions that our clients can take digitally that can help them save that money. So do stay for the whole session, because we're going to look at all these different things that can create that amount of money throughout the session. But what's quite important about digital inclusion as well is it links in so closely to financial, because it can very often give access to information and help people build their confidence by using a range of digital tools and learning more about what their options are. It's also worth noting that digital also helps with employment. 60% of all private sector jobs now are only advertised on social media. So actually digital is very much embedded now with your financial, because you can even increase your earnings if you have digital skills and can apply for jobs online. So we're going to look at some of the ways that digital can help people make better financial decisions throughout the whole session. And by the end of the session, we're going to look at how people can save money by being online and hopefully start to earn that £500 on average a year just by making some very small changes. So another quick question for you all is, who here has a budget? Who budgets? This can be weekly, monthly, 6 weekly, whenever you remember. Does anybody here actually budget? Yeah, well done, Carl.
I'm starting to get worried then. I'm glad people have started typing.
Herman, no, Herman, I was the same. I only recently started budgeting monthly where possible. Yeah, it's very difficult sometimes to keep on top of our budget and to remember, especially with Christmas coming up as well. Birthdays and Christmas, Giselle, they are the biggest drain on my finances. I have too many loved ones, clearly. Not as much as I should. Oh, brilliant. Thank you all for your honesty, by the way. Live within the pay packet. Yeah, it's very, very common for that. So I'm going to hand you over to Jocelle, who's going to tell us a little bit more about budgeting.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I think one of the things we've got to remember is that budgets are very personal to each individual because we all have different incomings and outgoings. But it's about not making that complicated. There's so many different ways that you can budget, different ways of monitoring it. But ultimately, the basic principles of budgeting are about looking at how much money you have coming in and how much money you've got going out, and then writing that down. It can be on a piece of paper, it can be online, and we'll talk about some more options in the next few slides. But once you know what money you've got coming in and what money you've got coming out, you can then start to prioritize payments. So look at things like your rent, your utilities, credit cards, bills, different types of bill payments that you've got. But also then it'll tell you how much cash you have, or in some cases like me, most months haven't got left at the end of the month. And at least then you can kind of prioritize or decide, well, yeah, I can go and treat myself this month because I've got some money left over, or I can put some savings aside, or no, I can't. So the principles of budgeting are really, really simple, but actually for some people that can be really difficult because there are a lot of people that we know across Wales that have really low literacy and numeracy skills. So for them, the thought of putting together a budget might be quite a daunting task. So what we would suggest is either if you're working with people, it's something that you can help them do, and we'll show you some of the tools available online in the next few slides, or that you know within your local area who you can refer that person to get support with setting up a budget. What you wouldn't be doing is telling somebody, if you were doing it yourself, what bills they should and shouldn't pay, because when you do that, you're crossing the line into advice, and therefore you would need to be licensed and regulated to deliver that type of service. But if you were just showing somebody the basic principles of what putting a budget together is, and there's loads of templates you can use online or ones that you can print off. For instance, the Citizens Advice website has a great one that you can just print off that's got a couple of prompts in there for people. But ultimately, it's a starting point, because once people can see the incomings and outgoings, it gives them more control over their money. And that can be difficult because some of the tenants we work with just don't have enough money coming in to meet their outgoings. And that's when you've got problems, and you really need to know what support services are available locally to you where you can really get help for those tenants. But ultimately, then it's about reviewing it regularly as well, because it's great writing a budget, but if you don't look at it for the next 12 months, lots of things could change. So really, you need to be looking at it on a regular basis, a monthly basis, or maybe even more often, depending how your income is made up. So for some people, that might be fortnightly. And also, once you've written to it, it's sticking to it. And it's being honest when you write it. You know, how much money do you really spend on things, not how much you think you might spend on them. Because if it's not real and honest from the start, then you're only kidding yourself in the long run. So it is really important to do honesty, stick to it, and keep reviewing it throughout the year as your circumstances might change. So I'm going to hand over to Hannah, who's going to talk about some of the online tools that you can use to help with budgeting. Oh, UC is going in monthly, Carl. Yes, you're right. That's going to cause a massive problem. We know a lot of the tenants we're working with, in fact, 83% of them have said their biggest concern when they move on to universal credit is about that monthly payment. It's quite difficult to prepare somebody to transition to a monthly payment pattern when their money comes in weekly, fortnightly amounts at the moment. And also, as most of you might be aware, housing benefit is paid for weekly. So to move that to a monthly, again, is quite difficult. I think what we need to do with people is, where possible, is to get them to start budgeting, so at least they can see how their money is made up. There's lots of tools available now as well DWP with the Money Advice Service have developed some when people transition onto universal credit. We're also looking at developing an app ourselves to help people prepare for that shock. And if we can get funding, we'll kind of actually go out and develop that tool. But Hannah's going to talk more now about some of the tools that are available at the moment that may well be able to help people with that.
Yeah, universal credit is going to be a massive, massive change to people, and we need to make sure that they have the tools to manage that shock as soon as possible. And online budgeting tools are a fantastic way of doing this. If you have a mobile phone, then whether you're on Android or iPhone, both app stores will have hundreds of free budgeting tools. Toshal is quite a nice one that we use in our training, and they all operate on the same concept of you tell the app what you spend, and it'll work out for you what your monthly, weekly budget is. They've got so many different benefits, though, online budgeting tools. One of the big ones, and it ties in with what Jocelle has just said, is clients can fill them in on their own and play with the numbers quite easily. I used to be a smoker. I'm not proud, I'm not promoting, but I remember I would always, always underestimate how much money I spent on that bad habit, because it was a bad habit and I didn't want to admit to myself and the people I was talking about my money with how much I spent on that. But being able to do that on my own using a budgeting tool might give me a proper idea of what my outgoings are, and then I can make those little adjustments as I need to. They're also really, really good because a lot of people might have an accessibility issue. They might have dyslexia, they might have low literacy levels, they might have something called dyscalculia, which means they struggle with numbers. So a lot of technology now has e-accessibility tools built into them, both into the product, and a lot of the apps, a lot of the websites have accessibility features built into them as well. So little things like text to speak, and it'll speak out to you what it's asking you. It'll say, what is your monthly outgoings? And then you put in, oh, £500. And so for people with low literacy or any sort of disability or accessibility issue, online budgeting tools are a great way of helping them overcome those barriers and be independent and take more confidence in managing this on their own. My maths is absolutely appalling. I desperately need my calculator and my budgeting tool, because it's very easy for me to overestimate or underestimate by £20-30 a month, just because 99p, 98p, it can cause issues to people if they're trying to do the maths in their head, and that's that's from my experience of myself. I really struggle with that. They're easily amended as well, so we've talked about some clients whose monthly wages might not be the same. They might be on 0-hour contracts, or they might do overtime one month and not the next. Because of that, online budgeting tools mean that they just have to change their monthly incoming, and it'll automatically do the mathematics for them and tell them what their new monthly budget would be. So they're very responsive. You don't have to go back to the beginning and do all the maths again. It's very, very good to play with the numbers and see exactly what you need to spend and where you need to do it. It's not just for mobile phones, it's not just apps. There are lots and lots of websites out there that have online budget planners built in. And the one that we use quite often, and I think it's an absolutely wonderful tool, is the Money Made Clear Wales website, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes as well. Very simple, very straightforward way of managing your money. So even if your clients don't have a mobile phone, if they can come and have access to the computers, again, show them how to use the tool, show them how to input their money and find out what they're paying for their bills, and they can see for themselves, oh, this is what my monthly budget is, and have that printout, and they can take that printout then and work with that for the next month and see if their numbers work out, and if they do make a saving, or if they do manage to pay all their bills successfully. So do have a look at a lot of the online budgeting tools, but especially the ones on Money Made Clear, because there's so many different benefits to them for our clients, and it is about giving our clients the tools to be independent with their money as well.
Just picking up on what Hannah was saying there around the budgeting, it's really important for people to have a visual record of it, because, as a lot of you may already be aware, people on low incomes are actually very, very good at budgeting, which is a mistake sometimes that, people say, oh, they can't budget. They can, because they have very little money. They're very good at juggling that on a week-to-week basis. But that doesn't mean to say that they've actually got a record of that written down. And I know, we've got examples of tenants we've worked with where we're trying to be doing their income and expenditure to, say, support them with a discretionary housing payment application. They've said to us, oh, well, I get a taxi once a week. Once we've actually got them to gather the receipts and give us the evidence of how much money they're spending on that particular thing every week, it really surprises them. So again, having that visual tool, whether it's online or whether it's a piece of paper, can really help people understand where the money that they have got is being spent. So again, if they need to make any savings or cutbacks, that's an opportunity for them to do them. Which takes us on to bank accounts. So there's lots of different forms of bank accounts. I'm not going to talk through them all because I'm hopefully that most of you are banked or all of you are already banked and you'll be aware of the different types. But you've got everything from savings accounts, transactional accounts. You can go to the post office, a credit union, a bank. And banks provide basic accounts, current accounts, premier accounts, you name it, there's an account to meet your needs. I think what you need to remember is, though, a lot of those accounts cost a lot of money to run. So you need to make sure that if you're paying for an expensive account, that you're actually using the services that you're paying for. Also, don't be afraid to move bank accounts. I think somebody said that people change partners more often than they change bank accounts throughout their life. I'm not sure where that statistic came from, but we'll try and find that for you. But moving bank accounts online is really easy. I moved mine back last year and I'd been with the same bank for about 25 years. So all of my direct debits, my mortgage, every payment had gone through this account. I wasn't particularly happy with the account, so I went online and there's a kind of a current account promise that they will change your accounts quickly and efficiently. And I can honestly say it was the simplest, easiest thing that I think I've ever done online, easier than switching utility suppliers. And I've had no problems at all with it. So I think quite often people are daunted by the fact of, oh God, that means I've got to change all of my payments. What happens if something gets missed? It's a really safe way of changing your account. And from my own experience, I can say that I did it and it worked really well. But just thinking about banking, there's lots of benefits to having a bank account or a transactional type account, from being somewhere safe to keep your money, somewhere to have your wages paid in or your benefits. You can access it in lots of different ways, online, over the phone, face to face. So there's lots of different opportunities. If you're lucky enough to have one, you might even earn some interest on it, although they're few and far between these days. You can set up direct debits and standing orders. And again, thinking about budgeting, I use my bank account to budget for me. So my salary goes in the same date every month. So I make sure all of my priority bills are taken out within a day or two of that going in. And then I know what's left in the account is mine to kind of spend through the rest of the month, whether that's for food or whether it's expendable income to go and treat myself on something. So there are lots of benefits to banking. But again, when you get banking online, people do have concerns about that, but we're going to talk about some of that later on. There was just more slides I wanted to pick up on when we talk about banks. And this is the new fee-free bank accounts that are available to people. Hopefully you've heard of them. If not, we'll get the link over to you. But basically, these are accounts that came into operation this year, and I think it's 9 of the major banks across the UK are providing them. So anybody should be able to access one of these accounts. So even if they've got an account with another bank, but they can't use it because of they're overdrawn and other difficulties with the account, they should still be able to access one of these through a different bank. The idea behind them is there's no fees for them at all for them to operate. They function like a transactional account in as much as people can set up direct debits, they can have payments made into the account, but they can't go overdrawn. So there's not an opportunity for them to get into difficulties with an overdraft. One word of warning I would say, though, is if people are going to take these accounts, they still need to remember that they need the money to be in the account for any direct debits they set up. Whilst this particular account won't charge you for a bounced payment, ultimately, if the money's not there that payment can't be made, but the individual is still liable to make that payment. So people need to be aware of that. Also, I think these accounts aren't as widely known as other accounts. So again, if you know somebody that needs a bank account, they need a fee-free one, they might just need a bit of support or a bit of pointing in the right direction when they go to the bank, because quite often the bank might try and sell them another type of account, which isn't necessarily going to be appropriate for them. Like I said, Matthew's just sent the link to you. So if you wanted some more information on these, you can go online and have a look.
Fab. And just again, just to back up what Jocelle said, my bank account, I got it when I was a student because it offered me a free rail card, and that was definitely a benefit with having that account with. And then when it changed to a graduate account, I did have a look at what the benefits and perks were to check it was still the best account for me. So it is worth just being aware what each account offers you and if it's something you actually need to have as part of it. So the digital element of bank accounts is obviously online banking and banking apps. So does anybody here use online banking or have an app on their phone for their accounts? Yeah, fabulous. I do as well. I think it's absolutely wonderful. It's so incredibly convenient. They're really handy ways of tracking your spending. In short, it's a great way of making sure your bills have gone out and checking what days they go out. And making sure there's no unexpected transactions on your bill as well, that you can query sooner rather than waiting for your monthly or quarterly statement to come through as well. I use it as well as part of my budget planning, in the sense of it controls my impulse purchases. So I'm in Cardiff, I'm looking, oh, I really want that. I can check my bank account app, and oh, I still have X amount of disposable income this month, and it helps me make a decision of whether or not I do actually want that item and if I can afford it. Online banking is a great thing for people who maybe can't get to their bank frequently. They can't get to a cash point to check their account balance, especially if they're a bus ride or if they've got to spend money to actually get to their bank. This is a free way of them making sure that they can keep control of their finances, and they can also pay their bills as well. I had it happen to me not so long ago. I realized sort of last minute, oh, I've got to make this payment, and the banks were closed. So I managed to go on my app and make the transaction from there, and I avoided the late fees for that. So online banking can definitely give people more flexibility, more support, more information, and more control over their finances. A lot of our clients can be concerned about online safety with banking apps. Some simple things we can do to make sure that we are encouraging our clients to stay safe is to never ever click a link to their bank website. Always type it in themselves directly. So if they get an email saying we're from your bank, it's not real. But a lot of people will click that link thinking that it is. So encourage people to only ever log in through that means, through going www.bankaccount.co.uk. And also having really strong, secure passwords and not having them somewhere obvious. Don't have them saved, as my grandmother used to do, on a sticky on the back of the mouse pad. That's quite important. Don't leave your important financial details where people can spot it. So moving on to credit. Does anybody here have any form of credit? Anything at all? Oh, Matthew's just sent out a link to which has got a lovely little article about how to stay safe with online banking as well. So do have a look. Does anyone here have any type of credit? Yeah, what type of credit? Visa credit card? Yeah. Don't tell us the numbers for anything. Too much, yeah. Barclay card, Visa card. Yeah, fabulous. So most of us seem to have credit cards. So Jocelle's going to give us a little bit of information now about types of credit and what we can do to encourage our clients to manage their credit more effectively. So over to Jocelle.
Okay, so glad to see you're all aware of credit and some of the different types available. As you know, credit is becoming increasingly more available, but there's different forms of credit. So there's legal, there's high interest, and then we've got illegal lending, where we always try and say to people, you need to look at your legal and most affordable options if you actually need to lend money. we've got everything from store cards, mortgages, overdraft, credit cards, bank loans. At some point in our lives, we all need credit in some shape or form, whether it's just to help us through a period where um, we may have lost our job, we may have had reduced hours or been on long-term sickness. It could be that we need a car loan, it could be the mortgage. So there's lots of different reasons why people need to take credit. But it's just about managing that. Hannah's got a really good example of store card credit where it can save you money, but it's also about being careful to make sure that sometimes the offer of 10% off isn't just a catch in the long run.
Yeah, I was buying some premium brand makeup from a store, very well known store. Went to the cashier, and they said, "Oh, we can offer you a credit card with the store for X amount, and you'll get 10% off this purchase." Now, I was I consider myself relatively in control of my money, and I thought 10% off what I'm spending is definitely worth it. So I took out the credit card, I got it no problems. But I put in my phone, I put in my reminders, pay off credit card for 2 days later, because if I hadn't done that, then I would have possibly incurred additional fees. So it's very easy to take credit and forget about it almost because it's been so easy and you had the cash for it anyway and you'll do it tomorrow. So it's really important that we keep to deadlines with credit because it's so easy to incur those extra charges. Carl uses PayPal for online services. That's a really, really good example of a safe way of making purchases online because PayPal will protect your money basically. If you get caught in a fraudulent purchase using PayPal, then as long as you can prove that you're not to blame in any way, they'll refund your money and they will chase and they will try and resolve the issue for them. So that's just a quick example of how easy it is to get credit in the form of a store card, but how easy it is to forget it as well. I was lucky, I say I had that reminder in my phone, but it would have been so easy for me just to think, oh, nice, I'll put another £20 on there, £20 on there, and forget just how much debt I was actually incurring.
And I think there's a couple of important rules we need to think about when we think about credit. And interestingly, Herman, you said that you'd forgot about the car, the HP. So sometimes it's what we think credit actually is. But the most important rules are stop and think before you apply. So whether this is for yourself, a friend, family member, or somebody that you're working with or paid to kind of support through your job, stop and think, do you actually need it? Or is it just something you want? Can you live without it? If you can, then you don't really want to be taking money out and paying interest on it for something that you don't really need. If it's something that you absolutely need, then look around for the cheapest legal and where possible ethical option available to you. Now, I know for some people their options are very limited and they may have to go to places like Buyers You View because nobody else will lend to them. They may even end up going down to an illegal money lender. But what we want to encourage people is whether they're doing it online or whether they're going from shop to shop, they're looking at what is the cheapest and legal option available for them to get that money in the first place. And don't forget, your local credit unions may be a good option for some people, maybe not everybody, but some people. And we'll talk a bit more about credit unions later. And then point number 3, think, can you afford the repayments and can you manage those repayments? Great while you're working, fantastic, but what would happen if your hours were cut? Would you still be able to pay that money back? And they're the sorts of things that you need to think about, or we need to encourage other people to think about. Great one, Herman's just picked up on Moneyline Cymru as well. Absolutely, it's quite expensive, but to some people, it's the right choice because it's more expensive, but it's their only option, but it's a better choice than going to an illegal money lender. And this is what we need to think, if you're somebody that's on that excluded end of the scale, then you can go and get some really cheap credit and you've probably got lots of people offering it to you. But people at the other end are going to be very limited around who will lend the money, and that will always mean that they're paying higher interest. But if it's legal, it's always a better choice than going to an illegal money lender. Okay, so moves us on to the slide for Money Made Clear Wales. So again, this is bringing digital and financial inclusion together in one place. Hopefully most of you would have seen or used this website or shown it to people that you're working with. If not, we'd really encourage you to go on there and have a look. The Wales Cooperative Centre developed the site back in 2013, and the idea behind it is it's targeted towards people with maybe low literacy, numeracy, and financial capability and digital capability. So the idea is that it's a really simple to use site. There's not too much information on there, and it's worded in a way that's understandable. It looks welcoming, and like I said, it's easy to navigate. We're currently redesigning the site. Like all websites, they need to be updated, they need to be kept in line with where technology is going, to be accessible and make sure they work on all devices. So we've built a beta site, which means that's the test site. And you can see from that slide that if you're on there, you can click on the link. If you've got time, we'd really welcome you to go on there and have a look at both sites and give us your feedback, because we're looking to launch the final site in January next year. So any feedback you can give us will be really, really useful. But again, we'd encourage you to go on here and have a look at the site. We haven't recreated stuff. We've taken the best of what's out there. So if you think about budgeting tools, if you think about cutback calculators, all the different things that have been developed by the Money Advice Service, Citizens Advice Bureaus, we've just embedded their tools onto the site, but just tried to do it in a simple way for people to actually use. The site is also one of the main information sites for the Discretionary Assistance Fund that you may or may not have heard of. If you haven't, jump on there now and have a look, because it'll give you all the information about the fund. But basically, the Discretionary Assistance Fund is a last resort fund that if you're working with somebody who's absolutely desperate, they can apply into the fund for certain things, but they need to meet the criteria. And like I said, it's last resort, so they need to prove that they've exhausted all avenues and they haven't been able to get money from anywhere else before they actually apply to the fund. But again, Money Made Clear Wales is the main portal for finding out information, so it tells you what the fund covers, how you can apply, and the best ways to get assistance and support for filling out the application. So again, you know, if you've got time, we'd really encourage you to go on there, have a look and give us your feedback. Thank you.
So just completely agree with Jocelle. Money Made Clear is a really nice little website to use. It's really nice to navigate, but also have a look at the new design. It's really, really nice. It's really modern. So I do really enjoy that website. But just linking into what Jocelle was saying about credit. Now, this is where digital can possibly make things a little bit more complicated for our clients. I went to Google and I just put in the word small loans, and immediately Google gave me endless ads and results for small, what would be considered payday lenders. So you can see cash paid in 10 minutes, anything from £50 to £2,000. These are legal. These are legal lenders, but they will have a lot higher interest rates than other more ethical lenders maybe. So for our clients, it's really important that we talk to them about this, that we tell them that they don't just at 1 o'clock in the morning, the bills are piling up. This seems like a really good idea, but in the long run, actually, these small loans can end up costing them a lot more than what they originally thought. So we do need to promote to our clients the more reasonable ways of lending, the lower interest ways of lending, which we're going to cover under credit unions, rather than going straight for these sorts of lenders where you're not necessarily going to know what the interest rates are and what the terms and conditions are as well. Again, I've no idea how to read interest rates and repayment structures and all of that. I really struggle. So we really should encourage our clients to talk to support workers, talk to financial officers about taking out any credits and avoid these really easy access but potentially quite dangerous small loan opportunities that are out there.
Which takes us on nicely to illegal money lending. And if you can just quickly say yes or no, how many of you have heard of the Wales Illegal Money Lending Unit? No. Right, okay. So most people have, 1 or 2 haven't. For those of you that haven't, I would really urge you to go online and look them up. For those that you have, I'm not going to go into too much detail because you're aware of them. They're part of a UK illegal money lending unit. The team in Wales are hosted by Cardiff Council, and it's only a very small team, but ultimately their job is around building cases to take to court to prosecute loan sharks. They've got loads of good case studies if you look at their newsletters online. And that to me really kind of sums up what loan sharks are, because quite often people don't realise what a loan shark is. They think it's a family or a friend who's just borrowing them some money. That's fine until they can't make a payment and things start going wrong. Also, loan sharks tend to prey on vulnerable people, people that they know, which again, can get people into really bad difficulties. And I think sometimes that image of a loan shark is maybe, I don't know, the bloke down the pub covered in tattoos who's going to smack your knees with a baseball bat. Sounds quite graphic, and that's what some of them are. But also, loan sharks are mothers standing at the school gate. And there's a prosecution, I think it was done in North Wales, which is on one of their newsletters, which is exactly that. So again, it's our perception of what a loan shark looks like, what we think they are, is quite deceiving. The team do some brilliant work, but they can only do it based on the information that people give them. So basically, if you think that there's a loan shark operating in your area, or you think somebody's using them, even giving the team a really small bit of information can be enough for them to start building a case and start investigating and following to see if there's enough that can be built around for prosecution. They also have a support team who work with victims of loan sharks. So again, we'll send the link out to you, but I would really encourage you to get in touch with them and read their newsletter, because we know that illegal money lending is on the increase, or we're certainly more aware of it. But we also really need to kind of raise the dangers of it and where we can stop people. Thank you. Okay, so that takes us on to more legal and ethical types of lending, which are credit unions. Hopefully you're all aware of the credit unions across Wales. Every local authority is covered by a credit union. Some local authority areas may actually have 2 or 3 credit unions operating across the area. If you take North Wales, for example, they've got what used to be the North Wales Credit Union, is now called Cambrian Savings and Loans. That's the same credit union that operates across all of North Wales and now down into parts of Powys. So there you would be able to get exactly the same service across all of that geographical spread. If you take somewhere like Caerphilly, you might have 2 or 3 different credit unions operating there who would all potentially offer different services and operate slightly differently. But ultimately, credit unions are community-based financial cooperatives. You join them by becoming a member. You save with them on a regular basis, and then if you need a loan, you can get a loan from them at a very reasonable rate. And like I said, they're legal and they're ethical. Another good thing that they do is saving schemes, whether it's a Christmas saving scheme, a summer saving scheme. They have a whole range of different ones. And Matt's just sent the link out to you, so you can find the local credit union to yourself if you didn't know about them. But they also offer payroll deductions. So for people that are employed and working regularly, if you wanted to start saving, which I did with our organisation because I was useless at saving, it gets taken out before the salary goes into my bank account. So it's a great way of kind of putting some money aside. You don't have to do it yourself. It's done at source for you. And you can start building up a nice little savings pot. It doesn't have to be a lot of money. It's, whatever you can afford, but it is a good way. Most employers will work with payroll deduction schemes. So if in doubt, get in contact with us and we could always go and speak to them for you.
It's worth with credit unions as well. I just remembered this happened to a friend of mine. She became a member and applied for a loan. Sadly, she wasn't in the best financial position for it, but what the credit union did was sit down with her, help her rearrange her budget and sort out her essential payments and things. And within 3 months, she was able to apply again and be accepted. So it's that ethical part of credit unions. They're about helping you manage your money, not necessarily about making interest on their products. They want to make sure everybody has the best opportunity to save, develop, invest, loan money, but they don't do it if they don't think you're going to be able to manage that payment. But they will help you with your budget sometimes. So fabulous. So brilliant. So digital is a really good way of saving money. Remember that number, £516 is the average amount saved by low-income households just by the merit of being online. So what are some of your ideas? How can we save money just by being online? What are some of the things we do that have an impact on our finances online? Can compare prices, Matt? Yeah, I do all the time. I don't like paying full price if I can help it. Um, Anything else? Any other ideas? Comparison sites, cashback websites. Yeah. Voucher codes. Yeah, I love vouchers. I always use vouchers whenever I want a Domino's pizza. Not name dropping or anything, but I don't pay full price for Domino's. Martin
Martin
Lewis
Lewis.
price match. Price match. Love it. Love it. So there's all sorts of ways that we can save our money by being online. Some of the most popular, the most common, are things like paperless billing. Now, it's a simple thing. We traditionally you'd get a monthly bill or a quarterly bill. Now, some companies, particularly utility companies, they'll take a certain percentage off your annual bill if you switch to paperless billing. So, for one of my utility, well, all of my utilities, I'm paperless billing, but one of them will give me 10% off my annual bill. So that's 10, £20 over the year I save just by managing my account online. You can get cheaper goods and services by being online. Now that means you can compare the prices of several things. You can look for reviews as well. So rather than spending £50 on something you're not sure is it going to work or is it worth £50, you can read reviews and check that that product is actually worth that amount of money. Um, Comparison websites are a fantastic way of saving a lot of money on things like your car insurance, home insurance, contents insurance. Um, and even what I've noticed recently as well is selling unwanted items. A lot of people have taken to selling things that they no longer use or no longer want, either to raise a little bit of spending money or just to make room in their homes if it's something that's taken up a lot of space that they don't need to have anymore. So websites like mysupermarket.co.uk, I absolutely love my supermarket. What it'll let you do is you tell it your postcode and then that'll find all the nearest supermarkets in your area. And you can upload your entire weekly, monthly shopping list and it will tell you how much that total shopping list comes to in all the local supermarkets. So one week it might cost you £30 from one, it might cost you £28 from the other. So it's a really good way of saving bits and pieces here and there. You can also do item swaps. So if one brand is £1 cheaper, you might want to swap brands. It's a really good way of saving some money on those essential items as well. I mean, Diet Pepsi is my drink of choice when I'm at home. It's how I relax when I get home from work. So I will once a month go to my supermarket and see which supermarket has the best offer. I don't have to leave the house, but I know, oh, I'm going to this supermarket this week because it will save me £2 on my little luxury. So doing that over the course of a year, I can save 10, £20 possibly, and that's a lot of money. Um, Things like Uswitch will help you find the cheapest utility offers in your area. Again, I think people are worried that swapping utilities will cause them a lot of stress. It has been made a lot easier. And again, 10, £20 over the course of a year, if not more, is a lot of money. eBay is a traditional website for selling unwanted items. What I've noticed recently is check eBay first, 80% good. Yeah, eBay is a fantastic place to get really good goods at a very decent price because people are selling things they don't want, so they've never used or a surplus or it's in little independent shops. But what I've noticed recently is Facebook as well is getting quite popular for people selling in their local area. So this little box by here is the search review for when I've typed in selling, and it's all my local selling group. So if I want to get rid of a few items, I can put them on there. What I've noticed is quite a lot of parents do it. They'll obviously children grow very, very quickly, but their clothes are perfectly usable, and they're selling the clothes their children are growing out of. And again, it's getting those little bits of money back here and there. That's for Facebook, Gumtree, yeah, all the free sites, all avoid the charges that eBay can have, but then you're paying for the security as well with eBay. Um, Something that I found as well is for certain items, buying in bulk can be cheaper. That's always been the way. Um, so by doing that, you can save yourself quite a lot of money. And if you compare things across several websites, you can find the best option for you. So I've got a lot of animals in my home, and it's far cheaper for me to buy a 10 kg bag of food than it is to buy the things from Tesco's every 2 weeks. But there's two websites I use, and they each have offers on at different times. So depending on which website has the offer that month, I will swap websites, and I can save up to £10 every time I have to buy animal food for my little fluffy darlings. So it's a really good way of saving those 5, 10, £15 every time you have to try things. So the internet is really good for getting those little savings here and there. And for the big ones, as I say, you've got your car insurance, home insurance, contents insurance, etc., etc. It's worth pointing out as well that you can, if you start off on the internet and then pick up the phone, you can typically make even cheaper savings. When it came to renewing my mobile phone bill, I went to a competitor, found out what they were selling it for, and then I called my current provider and said, "Oh, this place is doing it for this." They asked if they could see the link. I sent it to them, and they beat that price for me. So there's lots of little ways we can save money online, and one of the most direct ways we can do that's quite open and easy for our clients to do is just by using Google. So there's a new Pokemon game coming out tomorrow, and I'm a total geek, and I am going to buy it because I haven't grown up. I put the game title into Google, and then I went onto their shopping tab. And what that shopping tab has done is it's gone and collated all the prices online for me, so I can see exactly what each provider is selling that product for. So I can go to the cheapest or most convenient to me. So even Google is a really good way of just checking those prices, especially if they're big ticket items or Christmas presents or anything like that. These are really good ways of making sure that you're not paying above the odds and that you're getting the best option that you can have and the cheapest price for that product, just by doing these little things frequently. And again, if we come back to our budget, if we save £8 one month because we've done a few of these little things, in 2 months that's £16, and it'll grow and grow and grow, and that can be quite a nice chunk of savings by the end of the year. That could be a nice little mini break for people. But for every positive, there is a downside. So what are some of the ways that we can get in trouble with our money online? How can we lose money online? What are some of the things that we have to avoid and be aware of? Any ideas? Fraud, yeah, fraud's a big one. It's a big concern for people, especially for those who aren't online because they don't know how to. Foxy bingo, yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, we're going to look at online gambling to end the session off because it is a big issue. Booking fees, yeah, those little hidden fees that we don't notice. Delivery fees as well, where you assume it's defaulted to. Impulse buying, yes, I am terrible for impulse buying. Again, it's why I've had to go online for my budgeting just so I can keep a track of it. But it's so easy, isn't it? Just think, oh, I'm bored. Oh, that looks really good. And next thing you know, you've bought it. Gambling, Carl, yes, gambling is a massive issue right now. Forgotten subscriptions to sites, yes, that's a big thing. I got caught out once with that. I ended up spending, I think, £68 before I noticed I was still paying for this service I wasn't using. It's really easy to do, really easy to do. So yeah, there's all these little risks and things that can go wrong for us when we're online. So for things like hacking and frauds, we need to encourage our clients to be very careful with their information and their data. As I've said, don't click links to get to websites, go directly to the website. Use really strong passwords on all your accounts. Don't use your kids' names or a pet's name or something that's really easy to guess. That's really, really important. We need to be mindful as well. Again, this is a current trend I've noticed of too good to be true items as well. I've noticed on Facebook there's a lot of premium brands, makeup and perfume being sold, but for incredibly low prices. Now, I did some research and they're not the real products at all. They don't sell them for that much. There's no way they could be genuine and being sold for £10. And sadly, as well as the risk of spending money on an inferior product, there have been reports, and I have seen a few people say that they've had allergic reactions if it's something that, like makeup or perfume that goes on your skin, because it's not the brand, it doesn't have their ingredient list, it doesn't have anything like that. So we need to be careful of spending our money on too good to be true products, because although we can get it cheaper online, You're not going to get a genuine £40 something for a fiver. It just doesn't work like that. We also need to encourage our clients not to click on the adverts in Google. As we saw from the small loan slide, adverts have paid to be there. It's like adverts on the television. They've paid for the privilege of being the first thing you see. It doesn't mean that they're the best option for you in any way, shape or form. And as Michelle's mentioned, impulse buying is always a big risk. It's never been so easy to buy things online. So we need to encourage people to take a step back. Do I really need this item? Do I really want this item? And make that decision. Something I do is I have an account that doesn't have my bank details attached to it, and anything I see that I want on anything like Amazon, it goes into my shopping basket. And if I still want that item in a month or in a week, then I'll buy it. But usually by then that impulse has shifted, but I feel like I've bought something even though I haven't actually, because it's just in my basket. So we need to encourage people to, again, go back to their budget, see what their disposable income is, see if they can afford these little treats, see if there are these little savings that they can make as they go through, so that they don't get caught up in the, oh my God, it's a bargain, I must have it. No, the question is, do you want it? And as some of you have mentioned, online gambling is definitely a massive risk to our clients today. So I'm going to hand you over to Jocelle to talk a little bit about online gambling.
Okay, we've just got a quick slide on this. So great to see that a few of you have actually picked up on this. So the internet can be great for saving money, but it can also be a good way of encouraging people to spend money and engage with things that they might not necessarily need. You know, you think about years ago, gambling, you'd physically have to walk into the bookmaker to put your bet on, wait there till the race or whatever had taken place, get your money or not get your money, and then off you go. And unfortunately now, gambling is so accessible. Every time you turn the telly on, the amount of emails that you get, the amount of gambling sites that are advertised on genuine other websites, pop-ups keep coming up all the time. If you're not somebody with a slightly addictive personality, then great, you can just ignore them and think, I wouldn't waste my money. But for a lot of people, particularly where people are lonely, if they feel isolated, people that struggle to sleep in the night, could be people that are already in debt, so they're not sleeping in the night, can easily get drawn into online gambling, and the consequences can be dire. You know, we've heard stories where people have committed suicide because of the amount of debt they've got into through gambling. But unfortunately, this is becoming an increasing problem for us. There's a really good website that Matt's going to send a link out to, which is called gambleaware.com. So if you're working with anyone, or if you think that somebody might be gambling, have a look on that site to get some tips, excuse the pun, of ways that you can actually kind of support that person or what they can do. But it is becoming more of a problem, and it's something that we need to be more and more aware of.
So we're coming to the end of the hour now. So in conclusion, financial inclusion's all about developing skills, knowledge and confidence, and digital inclusion can give access to products, tools, information, give independence, give confidence, and all these other things that are so important. And there's such a strong variety of ways to save and manage our money online that it's always worth trying a couple of things out and seeing what works for us. So this brings us to the end of the session that we had planned. Thank you for listening. You will be an email going out with a list of resources, a recording of this webinar for you to watch and take any resources you need to, along with my contact details for digital inclusion and Jocelle's for financial inclusion. And if you're part of an organisation, then Digital Communities Wales offers training and support to help organisations throughout Wales embed digital inclusion and hopefully get as many people in Wales online as we can. So do get in touch with us and have a look at our digital inclusion charter as well. I'm going to end the session on a really nice quick video done by the Money Advice Service that just sort of summarizes a lot of what we've talked about today. But Jocelle and I will be around for the next 5 to 10 minutes to answer any questions. So what I will do is I will play the video. I will mute Jocelle and my mic as well. And please ask any questions and we will try and get back to you as soon as possible within the little 5-10 minute session now. So thank you so much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. Please stick around, ask any questions. And if you've enjoyed this, we are running 2 more webinars this year. One is on shopping online explicitly. Obviously Christmas is coming up and there's all these bargains to be had and safely to be had. And we're also running one on online safety as well. We'll look at a lot of the things we've looked at today in a lot more detail. So please do keep in touch, stay in touch, and feel free to hang around if you have any questions. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
If you're good at managing your money, it can help you stay in control of your finances and help you reach your targets and pay off any borrowing or debts. There are a number of ways you can do this. Firstly, you can use our great online budget planner to work out your budget in minutes. This way you can see how much spare cash you have left after paying off your most important bills. Or you can try and keep a spending diary so you can keep a closer eye on your purchases. It's a good way to see where you're spending your money and what on. You'll rarely be able to earn more from your savings than you will pay on your borrowings. So aim to pay off your debts first, especially those with the highest interest rate. Put simply, you need to spend less than you have coming in, but you also need to set yourself a realistic goal to get the best outcome. For instance, if you can put aside £2 a day for the next 3 months, you can pay for the MOT on the car. For more advice on managing your money, check out the other videos on our website.